Hi, everyone. I'm Daisy Auger-Dominguez, Chief People Officer of Vice Media Group, and I'm excited to moderate this terrific Latinas in Charge Roundtable, part of Hispanicized Latinas Represent Special Edition. So let's get started. Joining us today are Sandra Campos, CEO, Project Verde, former CEO, Diane von Furstenberg, founder, Fashion Launchpad. And as if that wasn't enough, Sandra also rescues horses in upstate New York and provides a sanctuary for them to live out their life. She rescued 8 horses in 2020, all from the slaughter pipeline, who have come from different types of situations from mistreatment or neglect. We also have with us Samara Mejia Hernandez, founding partner of Chingona Ventures. Fun fact about Samara is that she was a professional Latin dancer in her former life. She danced salsa, mambo, bachata, and cumbia, and was a part of 3 dance companies. We also have with us today Cecily and Mariel Saldana, producers and co-founders of Cinestar Pictures. Cecily is absolutely obsessed with cookies, who wouldn't be, and is also a professional pizza eater. And Mariel is mother to 6 children. I will say that again, 6 children. I've also heard that Cecily says that she and her other sister Zoe are getting into heaven thanks to Mariel. And finally with us today, Alicia Romero, Executive Director, North America, Local and Cultural Relevancy, the Estee Lauder Companies. I mean, these women have the best jobs. A fun fact about Alicia is that she's an eternal student of herbalism, which is perfect for her last name, Romero. She is passionate about understanding the cultural roots to beauty, traditions, rituals, and ingredients. And as if that wasn't enough, she's also a classically trained violinist. Now, today we have a powerhouse of Latinas that are speaking to us about their life experiences, and I could not be more excited to get them started today. So, ladies, Latinas are emerging as one of the most influential demographic groups in America. Today's Latinas in Charge panel features the most terrific Latinas working in their respective fields. We all know that role models can provide the blueprint for pathways to success. As Latinas who have reached the top of your fields, and this goes to all of you, who were some of the most important role models in your lives and your careers who have helped you get to where you are today? Sandra, can we start with you?
Hi, Daisy. Thanks so much for having me. It's a great day to be here with all this amazing group of women. Wow, I think that is such an important question for all of us to kind of think about. But for me, I can really think about my mother, number one, and my grandparents and my mother, mostly because as an immigrant who came to this country and didn't know the language and sacrificed so much to have 6 kids, she instilled in all of us this really great desire for success as well as academic endeavors. We were bribed with $10 to read every book that we read in the summer times, or money for straight A's. And it was something that at the time, you never quite appreciate. But now looking back, I see that she was continuing to instill in us a great work ethic to make sure that we were really finding a love of education and lifelong learning, which I still absolutely, that's actually why I'm founding Fashion Launchpad, because it is all about lifelong learning and continuing education. And the strength that she had to be able to put these 6 kids through amazing education and give them a life that was better than her own. My grandparents, because of everything that they endured, also having come to this country, I'm first generation, but having come to this country as immigrants, and just dealing with all of that, I don't know that I could have done it. So I look at them and I see certainly a mentor in my mother for all the things that are good about what I am today and the work ethic and being able to strive for success.
Terrific, Sandra. Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in with a role model? All right, Mariel, go for it.
I think I would love, I know, and I'm going to mirror exactly what Sandra said. It's such a pleasure to actually be here among you ladies, powerful ladies. We feel like very, very honored and humble to be part of this. And I think to answer your question about role models, the same. I think the women in my family, I would say my grandmother, my mom, and my sister, like we were taught to stand in your power, to be unapologetically Latina. regardless of our American experience, because we are first generation born here, we actually, out of respect for our culture, because it is part of us and it is who we are, they just decided to actually be like, be unapologetic about it. Stand in your power, represent. So I think the most influential person for me has been Zoe, my sister. Like, I've seen her be an actor for so many years and just fight the fight. And then when we started that working and creating together, I seen her doing that, gave us the confidence to be like, okay, we belong here and we have a voice. So I think that's actually very important. That's why we're here doing this panel, because I think for future generations, even our fellow Latinas, it's like, if they see it, when there's like a vision, the confidence comes. So I think that's why we're here. And I'm so grateful for the women in my family.
I love that, Mariel. And that happens at every stage and age. I remember when I first learned of Zoe, and I remember reading an article and seeing that she's Dominican. And I remember turning to my little cousin and going, she's Dominican like us. This is whether you're an audience person, whether you're an executive, whether you're a young person, it impacts who we see and who sees us. According to research by the Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility, ACER, Latinas represent less than 1% of executives in the United States and are overrepresented in some of the lowest paying jobs. Yet we make up one of the fastest growing segments of the labor force in the entrepreneurial sector. What do you think are the persistent barriers that affect Latinx employees in the workplace? I'd love to ask Samara, our Chingona Ventures leader here.
Hi, everyone. No, I'm so grateful to be here. And, my story is very similar to a lot of your stories. And my role model is my mom as well, and my sisters. But, for me, I think what I found very difficult, I guess, growing up in a corporate environment was being able to be uniquely me. And whether that's bringing my own voice to the table, working harder and faster than anybody else, but still not getting promoted sometimes, or getting feedback that was really interesting and very different than maybe some of my colleagues. And so, I focused on what I can do, and I focused on also when I couldn't do it in the environment, to move on and go to another group or start my own company. And I think that, what we need to do is create an environment where more women, particularly Latinas and women of color, can excel in a large corporation or in a larger group, or two, give them the ability and environment so that they can start their own companies, so they can start their own funds. For me, I joke that I promoted my damn self, because I just couldn't, I'm just not a good employee, I don't think, right? And I just had this vision, and I had enough data points at the point where I started my own fund to say, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know if this is something that will succeed, but I'm going to try, and I need to do it today. And so I was in a fortunate position where I had somebody that took a chance on me, was my first check in my fund, and that allowed me to then, raise my own fund and catalyze the round. And that's what I do for others. And many times it's women, and many times it's women of color. And so we need more women in these positions, because what happens is that they naturally help promote other women, and they naturally help invest in other women, and they understand the largest growing market in the United States being Latinos, with the highest purchasing power, right? And women represent 70% of all household purchasing decisions. It just drives me crazy as to why we're not targeting this population. So that's what I think we need to do to get more women at the executive level.
Absolutely. Alicia and Cecily, do you have anything you'd like to add to that in terms of the barriers and opportunities?
I think that Samara said it perfectly. The truth is that once we have this opportunity, and we got here by, knocking aggressively on doors, and our responsibility now is to invite more women to sit at the table with us. I think that instead of just hiring assistants of, Latinas and women as assistants, we should make sure that we're also nurturing them and supporting them and educating them to get to the place that we are right now. We need to promote and make sure that we're promoting and and encouraging others to do the same, because it's so easy for us, it's so easy to hire somebody in a senior level and overlook, people of color and women of color, right? And I think that we need to take a chance on us. We're betting on ourselves, but we also need to bet on our own community. We need to invest in our community a little bit more.
Absolutely. Alicia?
Yeah, as somebody who's been, as somebody who's kind of been focused in a traditional corporate career for 15 plus years in prestige cosmetics, for me, I think one of the biggest takeaways are some of the things that people don't tell you, right? The unspokens. First and foremost, there are corporate values. There are corporate cultures that exist in corporate America. So as a Latina, you really have to know and understand how you show up. What do you value? What do you want? Where do you want to go? And ensure that those personal values are aligning with those corporate values. That's the first key to understanding like you're set up for success in the background. I think the second thing I'll talk about is the cultural narratives. As somebody who's a child of immigrants, I'm Mexican American, first generation, much like the stories that you've heard here today. With that comes a lot of what I call cultural narratives, right? Things that were programmed that aren't necessarily ours, but the generations that come before us. So some of those themes are, for example, work hard, be quiet, be grateful, don't say anything. And when you're in corporate America, you're really in a marathon. You're not in a sprint. And those narratives that are constantly behind and telling us are actually deplete our energy, mentally, physically. And, you're not really setting yourself up for success. So really deciphering what's your story, what you want, what your values are versus those narratives that are constantly floating around us in our families, in our communities, and the discussions that we have. To really be clear on what you want, you can start to really manage that energy and figuring out like, how do you remove that as a barrier and really figure out who you want, where you want to go, how you challenge your energy. The last piece I'll touch on, which has been the theme, I think all of us, is that representation. You can't be what you don't see. I think many of us have been the only person of color in the room and for most of our careers, most of our lives. And so it's incredibly important. That's a barrier. We need to change that. So when you look around the room, ask yourself, what do I have the power to do? Can I bring someone up with me? You want to ensure that my Black brothers, my Asian sisters, my LGBTQ community are here so that we can really modernize and progress, what that representation looks like as we move our cultural narratives forward.
Absolutely. Representation, community engagement, support, leadership. These are the attributes that I always selfishly say, and I run a people and culture function, and we recruit all the time. And these are the attributes I often say. I was like, they are primed in the Latino community. These are the people we need to be hiring and bringing into our organizations and supporting and enabling them to thrive. And all of you are perfect examples of that. All right, I'd like to now ask Sandra. You've been the CEO of a very well-known company, DVF, and are now applying that experience to your entrepreneurial endeavors. What is your advice to other Latinas who are considering starting their own companies versus joining corporate America to first gain experience?
Well, I've had both in my life and in my career. So I've spent the majority of my time working in corporate organizations, but I also have spent many years as an entrepreneur. So I've had experience on both sides. And I think that there's a great amount of structure that you can learn and you can understand through organizational skills and people and understanding communication and how you need to work within an organization. And then also from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you learn everything because you are everything. It's a roller coaster ride every day. You have the highs, you have the lows. You have to become customer service. And at the same time, you're designing creative and PR and everything in between. So, there's a lot of validity in my mind as it relates to being an entrepreneur. And one of the things that I do talk about is that my greatest strength has come from my entrepreneurial ventures. And truly a pivotal part for me within my career was in 2009 when a business partner, Tony Melillo, he and I started a brand management company for celebrities. And we started with Selena Gomez. And back then, believe it or not, we had 90 people say no to us when we went out to try to raise money, when we went out to try to create a business model that was about a lifestyle collection for her with multiple categories of products. and trying to go to different retailers. And we had so many people say no to us. One, we were breaking a barrier that hadn't necessarily been broken with regards to celebrities in the teen space. Two, it was a time at retail that we were looking for exclusivity, and there wasn't a lot of that out there at the time. So we were doing something different, but we just kept going, and we didn't let no's stop us because we really believed in our business model and we believed in Selena. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of no's as an entrepreneur. I don't think anything prepares you for that. I don't even think that corporate experience prepares you for it. I think it's really more, it has to come from within, and you have to truly believe in your vision. You have to truly believe in what you're building and just stay the course. It's very hard. It is that roller coaster ride, but the benefits come at the end once you've actually stayed that course and seen it through and made sure to stay true to what that vision is. So, I would say that there's benefits to both. Obviously, as I mentioned, being in a corporate organization, you're going to learn a lot about people and process and organizational structures, and that's great because it'll help your entrepreneurial as well.
This wise counsel from someone who's been at it. Sandra, you clearly have a passion for all things fashion. How did your Latina culture influence your fashion sensibility? And how does it inform, if at all, the way that you approach your business life?
Well, for many years, I really didn't think about my Latina cultural heritage. I didn't think about how that related to me as an individual or how I related to that in terms of work. But certainly for the last 10 years or so, I have been, and really it started again with Selena and that business and how we really had to identify with the consumer. I am a student of the consumer in everything that I do. And to me, it was really identifying what the need was of the customer that we were trying to go after. And in that specific example, it was Selena when she was on Disney and her littles, which were her audience members. They were young, but most of them were Latinas. And so we really looked and identified colors that worked best. Which, by the way, purple is a great color, red is a great color. And as I started looking at the consumer in general, no matter where around the world, because I've had global businesses that I've run, you have to look at what the consumers' patterns are and their behaviors and what works best for them, especially with fashion, because it is about flattering your skin tones. It's about making sure that you look and feel confident, and color does a lot of that. And to me, when you think about our Latina heritage, red is for passion and fire and commitment. To me, it really is something that is so well known with everything that you think about, from Mexico to Honduras to Colombia, et cetera. And it's, to me, I think about the Native Americans and the artisanship of what they've created with embroideries and technical details. And there's a great company, Mi Golondrina, that really brings in artisan products from Mexico, from Oaxaca. And you just see this beauty in everything that they do. And so I try to apply that into my thoughts as it relates to building a business in terms of quality, in terms of the consumer, in terms of ensuring that the product resonates, how we engage and how we communicate with it, as well as just being able to make sure that we are creating products that will appeal to a Latina consumer. And so that could be with prints, it could be with color choices, and it could be with style and silhouette. So it does definitely inform my decisions as I look at things, as I think it would anyone, but it does ultimately become about who your end consumer is and how you modify products or colors or patterns to them.
I love that, and your insights have done you well in your career, there's certainly insights that get overseen so often, but are so valuable commercially. Thank you, Sandra. Samara, I would love to ask you, you're in this venture capital world, and the majority of entrepreneurs who land venture capital funding are white men, much like the financiers who hand it out. Venture capitalists tend to place their bets on people who've already succeeded or who they feel comfortable with, who remind them of people who have. What is the current state of VC funding for Latina entrepreneurs? And what was your journey to form Chingona Ventures?
Yeah, so I'm going to cut to the chase. It's not good. It's not good for Latina entrepreneurs, right? If I was a corporate, I'd say there's an area of opportunity here. But the reality is that women, Latinas, get less than 1% of all venture capital money. And if I go even deeper, I think it's 0.02% or something like that. It's a rounding error. It is incredibly astonishing to me that in this day and age, with the growth it is still this way. And to your point, there are a lot of venture capitalists that when they invest, it's in their network, right? It's with their buddies. It's through the same schools and the same geographies. And that has not changed in 20 years. There is a lot of conversation lately around racial equity. And there was a lot of conversation around, the women movement. But I would argue that women and women of color get left behind in many of those conversations. And I've personally seen it. And so when I was at another fund prior to launching my own, I saw the types of people that were getting funded. To Sandra's point is that, right, like it's hard to raise period for anybody, but these founders experience different types of questions, different types of experiences. And everything else about their business was really good. Everything else about the business was venture backable, but they just didn't get funding. And I just did not understand where the disconnect was. I was like, it's a growing market. It's a huge opportunity. Their valuations are lower because they can't get the valuation. So essentially we would get more equity. Why are we not investing in these companies? And over time, I had enough data points where I was like, if I would have invested in this company at this time, this is how they would have grown. This is how they would have raised more additional funds, or this is how they would have exited. And so I went to go launch a fund for that purpose. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to be successful, because this was, 2-3 years ago. Now everybody's raising a fund, but like back then you didn't see a lot of people raising funds, at least, from what I was doing and people that looked like me. And so I was just, I talked to my husband and I said, I might not get a salary for 2 years, but I'm going to go out and raise my fund. And I was able to find one person that took a chance on me and believed in me, and basically was my first check in the fund, and that helped catalyze the fund and it allowed me to start investing. So I launched it for a need in the market, and there is still that need. It has not changed. And as a matter of fact, COVID has accelerated the need for this. You know how many women of all colors, of all backgrounds have come out of the workforce because they've had to do double duties, right? Triple duties many times. I'm a mom of a 2-year-old, and I've personally experienced this as well. And so for me, I always try to change the experience that people experience on fundraising. And so if you're a new mom, before COVID, I would offer you, a lactation room if you needed it. If you were pregnant, I'm like, I'll come to you. And what are you craving? Because I know when I was pregnant, I had to walk around and I was fundraising and it was hot, right? And so I'll bring you lemonade, whatever it is that you need. And even those small things, people really appreciate. It makes a difference in just even the conversations that you have. And so that's how I believe I'm going to win deals. And that's how I believe I'm going to have a differentiated and an advantage to some others that don't understand this market and don't cater to these individuals in a different way.
And by the way, this is textbook best class practices in inclusive hiring, onboarding, engagement, and driving your business. And it's something that comes obviously naturally to you, but also that you've codified in your work, which is absolutely brilliant. Next, I'd love to ask Cecily and Mariel, you're in this entertainment world. And although people of color are becoming better represented, we've all talked about the need for representation. And there is an increase in representation in the entertainment industry. It still has a long way to go when it comes to the inclusion of Latinx community in particular. Tell us about the projects you're working on at CineStar Pictures and how you're telling stories and featuring talent that Hollywood might not have otherwise acknowledged or recognized.
Yes, thank you for your question. When we started CineStar, I think maybe 10 years ago, we set out some principles that till this day we honor, and understanding that they have to themselves have to evolve because the times change. One thing hasn't changed. Executives and studios are not necessarily hiring us. So instead of complaining about it, we decided to do something about it. We wanted to be part of the solution, and it really translates in the work. We did a project called The Honor List over at Studio L, which is the digital studio of Lionsgate. And we went in there and we said exactly what we wanted, and we put our foot down. And by the time we wrapped and delivered our movie, a stat came out on our project that we were 70-something% female in front of the camera and behind the scenes, which is something, and which is something that really brought me to my knees, because we fought so hard and we didn't think that we could do it. And to come out with such a high number, that means that we are out there hoping to get hired, hoping to be seen, hoping for an opportunity. And sometimes when you're in a rush, even though you have your mission, you could get a little sidetracked. But I'm really happy that Zoe, Mariel, and I stuck through it and saw it come to fruition. So that was a proud moment. Another thing that we have is that we have a digital component to Cinestar Pictures, and that is a platform called Bise, where we celebrate other voices. Mostly, yes, Latinos, but it's really other voices. In what most may think that they're random industries, but they're not. They're just these heroic people that are doing amazing things within their community, who are investing back into their community, that don't have a platform to promote, to showcase, to, you know, just or even just to like have a pastime. So anyway, so we have that platform. We encourage you guys to check it out, because it's really like, it's very selfless. None of it we're promoting ourselves. It's all about promoting others and giving them, you know, their 5 minutes of fame. Whatever you want to say in 5 minutes, here is your opportunity. And we will do everything we can to support, to introduce, to help you network, right? And I really love that platform. Another thing that we do is that we also have an interdigital space, you know, film and television. We have a show at HBO Max called The Gordita Chronicles, about the first Dominican family in a TV sitcom. You know, that's I don't know about stats, but I've never heard of another a Dominican family in a TV sitcom, you know? So here we are. And we have another show called From Scratch, and that landed at Netflix. And that is the Eat, Pray, Love of our women of color, right? Don't you want to see a woman of color travel and eat her heart out while trying to figure things out internally? Like, don't we also have those same issues? So, you know, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm happy that we're doing it, and we're doing it for our community.
I love that. Those are such exciting projects, and that platforms is not just relevant to our time, but don't we all wish we had that 5 minutes of being able to tell the world who we are and what we want to bring to it. That's beautiful, and such important entry points for our community that have not been available before. Thank you. That's exciting. Alicia, you are a top Latina executive. Let's face it, there's not that many of us. You are holding the title of Executive Director of Local and Cultural Relevancy at one of the largest beauty companies in the world. Tell us about your role within the Estee Lauder companies and the importance of the Latina consumer to your brands and business.
Well, Daisy, the Estee Lauder Companies is the largest prestige cosmetic company in the world. Some of our brands include Clinique, MAC, La Mer, Jo Malone, just to name some of the few. So it's a beautiful portfolio, and it's a company that really celebrates the individual and individuality. So that being said, when I took this role, it was prior to kind of this phenomenon of inclusivity and diversity that we're living in now, right? This was about 4.5, 5 years ago. And when the opportunity presented itself, you know, as somebody who's been in the conventional kind of corporate path and business and a private equity development piece, you know, I really wanted to ensure that this role was strategic, that it wasn't just a fluffy role, you know, to have a Latina in the room or, you know, have a brown skinned girl there. I really wanted to ensure there was a fundamental role that drove strategy, that really measured gaps, that helped showed how we were, you know, inclusivity is good business, that we were closing gaps, and that I had a real seat at the table. And for me, part of that interviewing process was really communicating as well that me being Latina, first generation Mexican American, you know, from dusty Arizona, had something to say, had something to teach, and that I would be taken seriously. So the role has really bloomed over this, you know, last couple of years in the journey that I've been in. But in that, you know, the organization has really listened and understood that communities of color are here. And you can't be relevant to women of color if you're not relevant to the largest ethnic population, which is Latinos of 19%, right? Latinas are influencers. We have some of the largest influencers in the world. We are trendsetters. We are the largest consumers of beauty, punto y fin. That's it. I don't think you ever see a Latina run out with a little bit of lipstick or blush or something, right? We'd all get the chancla if we did that. So, I think all of that and the organization really listening and learning, you can't be relevant to communities of color if you're not starting first and foremost with the Latino community. And the last piece I'll add to that is the Latino community in the United States and North America is so interconnected to other communities of color. Here in New York, I'm from the West Coast, in LA, in Miami, you can't walk where you don't see Black communities and Latino communities intertwined, enjoying each other's food, music, reggaeton, the African beats, hip hop, all of that. We're so interconnected. So, you can't dissect one population from the other and know that they feed and they build and they are interconnected. And so, part of that is really owning your culture, knowing your culture, having a voice and speaking up, but also being able to say, this is just smart business. So incredibly excited that, the organization sees and understands that this consumer is powerful and is going nowhere.
And we're incredibly proud that you're leading the charge on that work, Alicia. Thank you so much. Well, I could spend the next half hour talking to all of you because let's face it, I don't get to do that every day in the workplace as much as I am trying to hire more Latinas to come and work alongside me. But we do have to wrap it up. And before we close out, I'd like to give each of you a 30-second moment to give either words of advice to other Latinas who are aspiring to be where all of you are, or non-Latinos watching us today who should be doing better at making sure that they're creating space and opportunity for all of us. So I will move it over to Sandra. Any parting words for us?
Wow, there's so many things. I'm actually so excited about what this generation of Latinas and Latinos actually have to be able to work with. And there's communities that exist today that didn't exist 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And I think number one, you have to take advantage of the networking, take advantage of these communities, be a part of it. Network, you give back and ask people the questions that you need. Everyone looks to help and support someone's trajectory or someone's journey, but you need to ask, find those people that you think might be the right mentor for you, that might have done something in their business career or business life, entrepreneurial ventures that is what you admire, and go out and reach out to them and ask them if they can help you or ask very specific questions. There are a lot of crowdsourcing organizations now, like Cheryl Campos, not related to me, but I love her anyway. She heads up the Republic crowdsourcing VC arm, and it's called Republic. You can go there and you can crowdfund for venture capital. And she also has a VC group now that is called Mi Familia that you can look up as well. So that VC arm is specific to Latinas and Latinos, and they will help you pitch. They'll help you define your deck. They'll help you define your business model. They'll help you with pricing. They'll really give you a lot of guidance. All of this is so great and new, but it's something you can take advantage of and really use it to be able to build your own network, use it to be able to build your own knowledge base, because the more knowledge you have, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the more of a voice you have at the table, or the better you are at being able to go out and raise your own capital or take your business and find that consumer demographic that's going to embrace that. So take advantage of these communities. Take advantage of the support that we are all looking toward each other. We have this community of incredible women on this panel that you're hearing from. We're all here to congratulate, support, and embrace what we have for the future of Latinas and Latinos. And I think that, if you could just take advantage of that by reaching out, networking, and we will do the same to be able to reach out as well and connect and leave our inboxes open and respond, then we'll be all much, much better off for it as a community at large.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sandra. Samara?
For me, the best advice I would give is start today, right? That job you've been looking for, that business you're looking to start, that fun you're looking to start. Many times women want to be perfect, but men are taught to be brave, right? That quote. Start today. There is a growing community, I promise you, of Latinas that are starting their own businesses, getting in higher power positions, or even building alongside of you. I talk to many of them every single day. So to Sandra's point, supporting each other, but again, start today on what you've been pushing to wait until you have enough money, to wait until you have enough data. Start your company today.
Love that. Cecily and Mariel?
Well, I think the same. It's let's all support each other, and also because Latinos tend to only think that we can be only consumers. Like, be creative, write books. People want to hear your voice. We want to see what it is that you're interested in. Take your 5 minute and own it. Do what that dream that you have. It's not like it's not like you don't have limit to it, because we think that we put these limits and walls where to our abilities, and we don't have that. The minute you actually focus and focus on the fact that I do have a voice and I have something to say, just have the confidence to do it. And I think that supporting that will be important. Like, people like the ladies here today, like, if we support it and actually help them have that confidence, even if it is on 101 or anything. Like, we're in our company, we tend to actually hire and actually oversee things in that way. Like, oh, you're not necessarily prepared to this point, but we see you where you could be. So it's giving them that support. So I don't know if Cecily has anything to say, because I'm pretty sure.
I would love for all of us to really understand and grasp that we are stronger together, and showing up for one another is equally as important and very much a part of this equation. When we show up for each other and we show support of each other, more will come, and the stronger we become as a community. So that's what I think is, like, for us to understand that we are, and I genuinely believe this, and I know that we're gonna achieve it fairly soon, because we're leading by example, and I'm so proud of us. I admire all of you ladies. And for us to just continue to encourage our community that we are stronger together, and that means something.
Absolutely. Alicia?
Yeah, I think I would just say I love all these comments. I'm like, yes, Latina power. I would just add to that your culture is an asset. Punto y fin.
Yes.
Like, know who you are, your story, where you come from, your hustle, your ancestors, all of that magic makes you uniquely you. You don't have to turn it down. You don't have to edit it, but use that to really channel the energy that you want to portray in the world. If that's you rocking the hoops, your long indigenous hair, your red lip, whatever that is that makes you feel good and confident to be uniquely you, do that. And don't listen to any of that mind chatter or the narratives that you have to change or adapt who you are. Be the chameleon you are, to be exactly who you are and what you're destined to be. And you can achieve great things.
We are magic, Alicia, and every single one of you is magic. I am inspired. I am excited. You have all given me that extra boost that I needed today, and I'm proud to count myself as part of your Latina sisterhood. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of this terrific conversation.